Now, if we look at exercise and our response to it, we see kind of an interesting phenomenon, which is despite our chemoreceptor system detecting these things, that doesn't tell us the whole story. All right, so let's start with this relationship here because it really says a lot. Okay, so we're sitting here at rest, right? Then we have a period of exercise, then we have another period of rest afterwards. All right, so let's start by looking at alveolar ventilation. Okay, so when we're sitting here at rest, we have a normal tidal volume, right? We start exercising, not surprisingly, our respiratory rate and depth goes up, right? So we increase our minute ventilation. Now we are, quote unquote, exercising. Okay, then interestingly, we see a little bit of a fall, and then it goes way up, right? And then we stop exercising, so you just sit down. And your respiratory rate drops, but then it picks back up again, and then drops again. Okay, so what is happening? Well, okay, hold on. Arterial PCO2. So here we are at rest, right? You start exercising. Your PCO2 falls. Why? Well, it's because you increased your respiratory rate a lot, right? So you're breathing really fast, and you just started exercising, right? So it's not like the body has a lot of CO2 to get rid of because you're in the process of making it still. This is where the weirdness is. This is a learned effect. Our brains know that when we start exercising, we're going to need to breathe faster. So you start doing that even before you need to, right? So the reason this drops down is because you're actually breathing more than you need to at the beginning because your body knows that, well, exercise needs more airflow. So by golly, you're going to do that. Now, as we actually start to move our bodies, the CO2 does start to build up, right? So our PCO2 does increase, and we see our alveolar ventilation increases along with it, right? Because the body is going to want to offset, going to want to keep that PCO2 around 40. Now, when we stop, something else interesting happens, right? So we stop exercising, immediately our respiratory rate drops. But the body still has all this CO2 to get rid of, right? Because you exercised, you burnt up oxygen, you made CO2. It's not all gone here. So when you sit down, you breathe much less. That makes your PCO2 go up because now you're not breathing fast enough to get rid of the debt you made in here. All right, so as your PCO2 increases, your body recognizes that, increases its respiratory rate. Why? Because your PCO2 is too high. Now you're going to breathe faster, and you're going to breathe that PCO2 out until you're back to normal and you're where you started from, right? So, in other words, our response to exercise isn't just about PCO2. If it were, this curve would look like this curve, right? But it doesn't. Our response to exercise has a learned component too, right? So at the beginning of exercise, our respiration, our minute ventilation goes up, even though we don't actually have any CO2 to get rid of. And then at the end of exercise, initially, our respiratory rate goes down, even though we still have a lot of PCO2 to get rid of. Now, in real life, do we notice these things? Not really. I know some people will notice this part, the oxygen debt, that after you've had a good run, like, it takes a while before you feel like normal again, right? And that's because you're getting rid of the oxygen debt and getting rid of the CO2 that you've built up. All right. And then on this side, what we have alveolar ventilation and arterial PCO2. What this is showing you is that the difference between at rest and exercise, the PCO2s are very similar. The ventilation is hugely different, right? So what this is showing is that we can increase our minute ventilation by, 12 times between exercise and rest. So we have a dramatic exercise reserve in our pulmonary system. But the patterns are the same. As PCO2 increases, we still increase our alveolar ventilation. It's just during exercise, the baseline is much higher, right? Because we have so much more CO2 that we need to get rid of. All right, so that's the exercise effect. And as a reminder, these are going to be through the chemoreceptors, right? Remember, the direct effects don't happen as quickly as the chemoreceptor effects do, like we see here.